Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients.
Welcome back to the Finance Marketing Podcast. This is part 2 of my conversation with Manda, owner of Hyper Pony Studio and a digital marketing expert for the financial services industry. So if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, I encourage you to go back and check it out. In that episode, Manda shared invaluable insights into some of the biggest website mistakes that financial advisors make on their sites and how to avoid them. And in that episode, we covered everything from making your website more approachable to the importance of clearly explaining your services to potential clients in language that they understand and resonate with. Now, in this episode, we're picking up right where we left off. As a reminder, when we left off in part 1, we had just finished talking about the importance of clearly stating your pricing on your website and maybe even using a hypothetical scenario to help potential clients better understand exactly how your fees work. Now we'll continue the conversation by exploring how case studies can further demonstrate your value and how to use real or hypothetical examples to connect with potential clients while navigating some compliance challenges that might come along with that. So without further ado, let's dive into part 2.
So I've helped advisors write this with website copy. It's so easy to add a little, hypothetical scenario. John and Judy came to me with $100,000 and this is how much it cost them. When their portfolio reached $500,000, this is how much it cost them. It's so easy and it helps people really see, okay, this is how much it's going to cost me and all of that. And I also love your notion about helping them see your value as well when you're talking about pricing. So how is this going to result in better outcomes for them? Do you have any tips around where you kind of do that or throw that in?
That brings us to our next tip.
Oh.
Our next mistake, which is not sharing stories in case studies, hypothetical or real. And so a case study is a great way to show people the value that they're going to get when they work with you. And so what you want to do is you want to show people how you create success for your clients. You want to show a before and after, and you want to let people see how complicated the process is. Because I think when people think retirement planning, they think, oh, throw my money in an index fund and I'm done. And they don't realize all of the complicated pieces and steps that go into all of the decisions that you make and all of the scenarios that you guys run. And so to be able to say to somebody, Tim and Louise, we're in this situation. Here's all the things that we did for them. And now here's their situation now. And so, they were on track to have 1.2 million in retirement. Now they're on track to have 5.6 in retirement. Those are the things that show people like, whoa, so that's way more than the 1% fee that I would be paying. And now I see how a financial advisor actually pays for themselves. And so I think that those case studies are so powerful. And I think they're on a lot of advisors' to-do lists, but they haven't taken the time to actually write them. And, again, that's something you can hire help for. Because I think that those stories are probably some of the most powerful things that you can do, because not only are you in competition with other financial advisors, your real competition is the DIYers. It's the people who are going to try to do it themselves.
Right.
And by showing them like, whoa, there's a lot more involved here than I thought, you may sway some of those people, which is important because they're really the ones that you can help the most.
Right. Yeah. Not to plug me and my team, but case studies is one of our favorite things to help advisors write. And I know that with case studies, a lot of advisors are worried about compliance. Sometimes compliance has some thoughts about case studies. Have you run into any of that when working with advisors? Have you run into any tricky compliance departments who, are worried that a case study might come across as promissory or anything like that?
So I have never had a compliance team not be willing to work with us.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is so scared of, they're just going to say no. They're just going to say no. First of all, they never say no.
Yeah.
They say, these are the things that you can't do. But then if you come up with a creative way to make it happen without doing those few things, guess what? They're 100% on board.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there are going to be some rules. I'm working with an advisor right now who does a lot of work out of California. California has completely different compliance rules than everybody else does. And so for their case studies, we're not allowed to do a lot of things, but it still leaves us a ton of room to tell a hypothetical story.
Yeah.
You know, and honestly, I told them, I said, well, let's lean into it because it's hypothetical. We can share a lot more than we could share if it was a real client. If it was a real client, we wouldn't be sharing all of their numbers and all, you know, that would feel weird. But since it's hypothetical, we can say, look, this is how much money so-and-so makes a year. This is how much money his wife makes a year. And these are the investments that they had. And here are the things that we would do for them. And then if that was the case, and if the market was producing 8% every year, you know, then this is where they would end up. And so, you know, sometimes I like to think of it as a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When compliance comes back with something. But I have yet to have a situation where compliance is just like, no, and it didn't work, you know? And so I feel like it's really never the wall people make it out to be.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. A lot of times, and of course, it totally depends on the state you're in and your specific compliance department and all of these things. But a lot of times, something as simple as a disclosure, you know, the compliance is like, just put this at the end of it and then we're good. And I think people don't realize that is sometimes, you know, you write it up and then compliance actually sees it and they're like, okay, you know, let's say a few words. Let's put a disclosure on it and then it's good to go. It's actually not as hard as a lot of people think it is.
Absolutely. I actually had a client who was worried about putting testimonials on their website because they had to put in a disclosure that said, you know, these were not paid. These were not, you know, we didn't give anybody anything for these. These are real, you know, and he was upset about it. And I told him, I'm like, that actually makes your testimonials stronger because you're saying that, you know, you weren't paid for these. They didn't get anything in exchange for these. These are real testimonials. I'm like, let's make the disclosure bigger. Like, let's make it a headline. I mean, like, this is good news. And so, you know, I think that we're just kind of so trained to think of compliance as the enemy, but really they're out there doing a great job of protecting us. And every compliance person I've ever worked with has been willing to compromise.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. That's the experience I've had as well. Okay. That's great. Moving on to, I think, mistake number 6.
We're on number 7.
We're at number 7. Okay.
We are. We flew.
We did.
So number 7, in my opinion, is the biggest one of all. And I see this one so much. So a lot of advisors spend a lot of time and energy coming up with a niche. And then they don't talk about it at all on their website.
Yeah.
They're so scared that they're going to turn people away, that they have the same generic website as everybody else, and they are losing all the benefits of niching. So the whole point is that when someone from first of all, the SEO implications, you know, for you to set up a website that says, I'm a financial advisor for pilots. You know, when I type in Google financial advisor for pilots, if you haven't set your website up that way, I'm never even going to find you. I'm not going to know that that's what you do. And then when I get to your website, there's no airplanes. There's no mention of any of the things that pilots have to deal with specifically. You know, it just says like, we help families. And, you know, it's not going to do anything. So having a niche and then keeping it under a hat is not the way to do it. If you have a niche, you go all out. The first sentence on your website needs to be, you know, financial planning for, and then tell me what your niche is. And I see people doing it all the time. And I'll tell you, doing one landing page on your website for a niche is not enough.
Right.
Like, don't do that. You know, don't make the whole website general and then do one landing page for your specific niche. It needs to be loud and clear from the home page all the way through the entire website. And I'll tell you what, on your about page, I want to know why you're even working with that niche. Mm-hmm. What was it that made you decide that, you know, these were your people? So yeah, I think that's a big one I see all the time.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And I love your opinion because I have a financial advisor that I've, worked with. He's been defining his niche. He might hear this conversation. I'm not going to say his name, but anyone who's been following me probably could tell who it is. But he has this really big problem where I think 95 to 97% of his book of business is not this niche at all. They're
Oh.
polar opposites, right? But he really wants to lean into this new niche. So really what it is most of his current book of business are pre-retirees and retirees. He's really passionate about helping millennial families like he and his family, start the journey and have a really great journey to retirement. They have so much time in front of them to be flexible and things like that. And so he started creating all of these assets around the new niche, right? His lead magnet, all of his social content, his podcast, all these things. What he's done with his website, because he hasn't taken the step of telling his current book of business what's happening, because he doesn't want to lose them, which I totally understand. He still likes working with them. He does great work for them. And so what he's done with his website is he's made subtle indications that when the new niche. So what would you do? What would your advice to him be?
So I'm going to give you advice from somebody who changed niches myself.
Ooh,
So I spent 15 years in the investment world in mutual funds and equities and fixed income and all of those fabulous things. And that's where all of my contacts were. It's where all of my work was. It was where all of my clients were. And when I decided to switch over into the RIA and financial advisor world, I went all in, and I didn't lose any of my investment related clients.
Yeah.
None of them. None of them were like, oh, how dare you work with somebody in a different industry? I mean, it didn't even, I don't think that, I don't think any of them even mentioned it. I mean, and I know that financial advisors are so nervous about it. They feel like they need to send out emails and they need to make announcements. But once you're working with somebody and you already trust them,
Yeah.
first of all, am I even going to your website as a current client a lot? I mean, I don't know that I am. And if I am I going to be offended that you're working with families that are a little bit younger than I am? If I feel like I'm getting really good service and I'm really enjoying the partnership, I can't imagine I'm going to bail on somebody that I already know and trust.
Right.
But yeah, if you're worried about it, you can, and then that's another thing I do. I have two versions of my newsletter. So one goes to my investment clients and one goes to my advisor clients. And so you can do stuff like that, where you're still sending specific messaging to your original audience,
which is a great tip.
It's an easy thing to do with the way the email software is now, to kind of bucket everybody out with tags. And so, yeah, I make very slight changes and then send out the same message, but, so that it's specific to their audience. I've yet to hear a story where somebody niched down and was sorry about it.
Yeah. I know what kills me about this particular client that I've shared with you is that I think it's such a great opportunity to go to his current book of business and tell them, hey, I'm really starting to open up time on my calendar for this particular demographic. This is why I'm passionate about serving them. If you have any family members who would love to talk to a financial advisor, please send them my way. I think it's such an opportunity. That's such an easy way to kind of make the announcement without being awkward about it, and
that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. And, people love having a financial advisor who can work multi-generationally anyway.
Right.
And everybody wants the best for their kids. Everybody wants. And so, yeah, if his current target market's children are millennials, it's absolutely ideal. I mean, that's a perfect answer. Yeah. And if your current market and your new market are related in any way, that makes complete and total sense.
Yeah. So anyways, those were really great insights that you shared. I'm really glad I asked you that question. Thank you for kind of going that direction with me. Now, I know you have one more kind of bonus mistake that we have?
I do have a bonus mistake. So everybody wants to know about search engine optimization. That's everyone's thing, right? Is like, and it's true. When you build a website, it doesn't magically magnetize everybody to, you're not going to get all these visitors overnight. It's not like a grand opening. I mean, nobody even knows it exists if you don't tell them. So you do have to do some work. And so everybody wants to do this search engine optimization. Well, when you're a financial advisor, what most of you want to pop up for is financial advisors near me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you that the SEO on your website is not what's going to get you to pop up when you type that in. It's having a Google business profile. It takes like 10 minutes to set up. It is absolutely free. It is insanely easy. As long as your compliance team will let you have one, go get one today, because that is how it works. When somebody types in financial advisors near me, it literally uses a map to figure out who's physically closest.
Yep.
And it's going to put you in that list. But you're not going to show up at all if you don't have a Google business profile. And so just stop right now, turn off the podcast, and go get one of those. It's going to make your life a lot better. And if you do a little bit of research, you'll find out there's a lot of really fun ways you can use it outside of just setting it up. You can put blog posts on it. You can put events on it. You can do all sorts of fun things with it that will actually get you a little bit more noticed. And when somebody does Google your actual business, you're going to get that nice sidebar on the side of the search results. That's all you, baby. You get to put your images in there. You get to put your website in there, your phone number, your contact information, your hours, everything. So yeah, get one of those.
This is such a hot tip, and it makes me think of this experience that I had with a financial advisor once who really wanted to show up as financial advisor near me. And he was wanting me to actually use that exact keyword in his copy. And I said, first of all, not only is it very difficult to naturally incorporate something like that into website copy, but it's not actually going to help you, right? Because it all, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's actually not, because the Google business profile is the easy answer to that. So have you, I've never actually set up a Google business profile. I've never helped anyone set it up. Have you?
Okay.
I'm wondering, is it an easy process?
So easy.
Okay.
It's so easy.
So I'll do it myself.
The hardest part of the whole thing is you have to wait for Google to approve it, because, which I have to appreciate the fact that they're a company as big as they are, with as many Google profiles as they have. They actually make sure that you're a real person with a real address. And,
Wow.
So they do check in. And so it doesn't get published instantly.
Right.
So you fill it all out and then you wait. And then if you want to make changes to it, you wait. So it's not, it's one of those things where you're all excited about it and you want it to go up right away. It's not going to go up right away, but it's so easy. I have sent instructions to the most non-technical people, and nobody has ever come back and said, "Can you do it for me?" Because it's never been anything anybody couldn't handle themselves.
And is this something that only advisors with a physical office space should do? Because a lot of us now are working from home. Do you think anyone can do it, even with their home address?
Anyone can do it, even with their home address. If you don't want people knowing what your home address is, just get a UPS box or something to use as an address. It's very easy.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do is you can put in your Google business profile who you work with. So yes, I live in Chicagoland, but I work with the entire United States and Canada. Now, the more specific your address is, the more likely you are to come up with the near me Google search. If I say I work with the entire United States, there is not really any near me that's going to work for.
Right.
And so, it works especially well for advisors who are niched into an area, because there are some of you who do that. And so using that address is very, very helpful. But you also can use an address and put in areas that you work with. So, it's very flexible, and you can play with it and you can see what kind of results you're getting. But I feel like it's such an easy thing to do, and it's free, and you're just crazy not to do it. I mean, make sure your compliance team is cool with it, because it comes with reviews and comes with some other things. But as long as they're okay with it, get one today.
I think this is such a hot tip, Manda. We could record a whole other episode about just the Google business profile, because I have so many follow-up questions. But I know we're coming up to the end of our time here. So is there anything else that, we haven't dived deep enough into, or that I haven't asked you about yet, or even just thinking back in our conversation, one thing you'd love to circle back to before we wrap up here?
I think that the one thing I just would like advisors to realize, when you're buying a website template, whether it's with a company that specializes in financial advisors or not, you cannot assume that what they're giving you is right for your business. And so, my advice is always to kind of put the template aside, start with a blank piece of paper, get down what you would want down, and then wrangle that template into submission, instead of just being like, oh, okay, well, this is the paragraph they used, I guess it's fine. The other thing that I would love to talk about is canned content. So if you have signed up with a service that is going to write your website for you, they're not really writing the website for you. What they're doing is they're giving you the exact same language that they've given every other advisor who's purchased that template for their website. And I just want to be very, very clear with you, whether or not you feel like that language is appropriate for your business, it is hurting your search engine optimization.
Yeah.
Google hates content that has been repeated throughout the internet. And it does that for a really good reason, because if I'm going to search something, I don't want 10 websites to come up that all have the exact same content on them.
Yep.
So Google has made sure that that doesn't happen. So what happens is, when it sees that websites have repeated content, it actually pushes them off of the search results. So you are killing yourself by using that canned content. So just be really, really careful with that. I get it. I know you don't have a lot of time. I know you're not a professional writer, but it really is hurting more than it's helping.
I love that tip so much. I think canned content has no place in an advisor's marketing ecosystem anywhere. But for the love of God, if you are going to use canned content, use it in emails. Don't use it anywhere else. Don't use it anywhere else, right? Because you don't want it to harm your website's reputation, and you don't want your website to get punished by the search engines for having content that is exactly the same as another financial advisor's on there. So great way to end the conversation, Manda. That was so helpful. Now, if people want to learn more about you, where's the best place to find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, but my name is really hard, so that will be difficult. So instead, I would go to hyperponystudio.com, which is the name of my company. And you can also search LinkedIn for Hyperpony Studio, and I'll come up there too.
Perfect. Well, I will link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes as well, so people can just click a link rather than typing in your last name or searching for you. Manda, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Hillary. I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.